Well, I'm joined now by the CEO of Multiverse, Euan Blair. Euan, great to have you with me.
Great to be here.
Your company pairs apprentices with companies, usually big professional companies, the likes of Google, Net-a-Porter. So you're kind of a barometer for the jobs market. When it comes to entry-level candidate salaries, how much are you seeing that letting up? Because, of course, it feeds through to inflation.
So we're not really seeing that letting up. We only work with companies paying living wage and above. And I think what you are seeing, though, is that apprentices can earn very substantial wages versus those who've gone to university. In fact, our apprentices, by the time they've completed their programs, end up earning more than graduates on average. So you're certainly seeing what is still a competitive labour market, despite inflation and despite the macroeconomic environment.
And we've had this boom in AI, especially in the past few months. You work a lot with tech companies. How has it changed the appetite for tech skills?
It's only made it more important. And the thing is, you've got a huge number of companies that are still grappling with the first wave of digital transformation and how they get better, cleaner data sets and how they make better decisions based on that data and digital transformation. And so AI, and in particular generative AI, is just simply making that even more of an existential need for companies. And they cannot get those skills or the training they need relying on the university system. I mean, we are training more data analysts than are being formally trained in the entire university system in the UK. So that skills gap is very real, and apprenticeships are a great way of meeting it.
And you're also kind of a barometer for diversity and how much the corporate spin about diversity is translating into hiring and retention. Do you still need a Russell Group bachelor's and an Ivy League master's if you want to get a plum job in investment banking?
Well, the answer is no, which is great. And we're seeing more and more companies actually drop these degree requirements. And the thing about the diversity piece is, the good news is I've been lucky enough to speak to tens, if not more, of CEOs of big companies. They all believe in diversity. They all want to better reflect their customers and the societies in which they operate. But the challenge is, if you're reliant solely on university as a funnel into those jobs, you will never get sufficient diversity because universities do not represent the broadest level of society. As an example, if you're claiming free school meals, only 4% of those people will make it to a Russell Group university. And companies want to reach people from beyond the usual sources.
So how many of your partners, your clients, are actually completely willing to scrap degree requirements?
Well, lots of them still have graduate programs as well as having the apprenticeship program. But what the apprenticeship program shows is that you don't need a degree to work there. There is an alternative route. And if you look across our apprentices in the UK, over half of people of colour and about 45-50% come from the most economically marginalised communities. Over a third have claimed free school meals. So it is just a much more diverse group of people who are going and pursuing these jobs.
But it seems to be going well. Do you have a time frame for when the grad scheme will be a thing of the past?
So I would love it if basically what you saw is grad schemes replaced with early career schemes. So you have some people who've gone the university route, and that's okay, and plenty of people want to learn in an academic environment, but you have others who have gone the applied learning route and have taken an apprenticeship, and they both come in at the same level and they're both contributing equally within their organizations. And more companies are moving in that direction anyway. The fact is, you speak to most people in a business, the degree is not really a signifier of anything meaningful. Companies don't care about what you know, they care about what you can do, and particularly what you can do in a work environment to unlock value for them. So we're constantly spending our time demonstrating the return on investment of apprenticeships, what kind of skills people have and what they can contribute.
But you've got 2 degrees.
I do.
You went to Bristol, you went to Yale, you started off in investment banking. Surely that helped you?
Absolutely, because at the time, there wasn't really a viable alternative. And I remember when I joined my investment banking graduate scheme at Morgan Stanley, I was surrounded by a group of people who nearly all had arts degrees. They were nearly all white, nearly all men, and most crucially, actually, they were basically all from privileged backgrounds. And we had no divine right to be there. I learned everything I knew about corporate debt and derivatives on the job because my ancient history bachelor's and my international relations master's did not teach me about markets or how companies raise financing or anything else, but they were deemed a prerequisite. We're moving beyond that now, which is great and is only a progressive move.
But you've also had the privilege, it has to be said, of being the son of Britain's most electorally successful living Prime Minister. Surely that helped you fundraising for Multiverse?
Look, it's obviously not an unhelpful thing. I grew up in a very privileged environment. It's made me more conscious of the fact that we have a real problem, though, if your background determines your destination. And one of the most concerning things about university and college education more generally, and we're expanding in the US, in America, your family income is a greater determinant of your career earnings than your GPA, even at an elite Ivy League university or college. So unless we do something to actually ensure that people have access to opportunities and distribute those more evenly, we're going to continue having very talented people who, through no fault of their own, are being locked out of access to the best jobs.
So you want to achieve social mobility through apprenticeships. Your father wanted to achieve social mobility through higher education. At what point did the light bulb go off in your head where you realised his means to that same end were fundamentally flawed? Was it something that you debated around the dinner table at Downing Street?
We talked about it. The thing is, there was a belief, okay, higher education can be an unlock for people in their careers. So the more people we give access to higher education, the more we can get people access to great jobs. It just hasn't worked out like that. The results are pretty telling. That stat I shared around free school meals, the fact is that there's also no correlation between academics and job performance. So there's actually something misguided in relying on an academic-only system anyway. The fact is, a one-size-fits-all model is always going to be inadequate for people who are having careers over 50 years, who are going to have to constantly train and reskill. And then also, we are very underweight in our formal education system, the concept of applied learning, of learning through doing. Athletes don't make their best breakthroughs in a classroom, they make them on the track, right? We recently revealed an ad campaign where we're showing people learning to ride a bike in a lecture hall, and no surprise when they fall off that bike, because there are some things that you learn better through doing. And we're seeing now an actual increased focus from employers on practical applied learning, which is a good move.
And speaking of your dad, I interviewed him recently. He said that an IPO for Multiverse was some way off. I wonder if you've got any more specifics on the timing.
Well, frankly, he wouldn't know because he's not actually involved directly with the business. But it's just not something we're focused on. We're focusing on building a great company, expanding this concept of apprenticeships, expanding in America, rolling out more of our tech platform, and in particular, looking at not just how you train and equip people with skills, but how you then validate how frequently those skills are being used in the workplace. Because if you think of, if you can sort of open up this so what of education in the workplace and actually show consequently how that drives better outcomes for businesses and better outcomes for individuals, it's something incredibly powerful, and it can help us expand apprenticeships even more broadly.
When you talk about growing in the US, you've got the backing of America's richest family, you're working with massive US companies. Is America, in your eyes, a better place to do business than the UK?
I don't think that's the case. I mean, the UK is still a brilliant place to do business. And the fact is, most of our employees are over here. We love Britain, it's very business friendly. The US is also very business friendly. We're in 9 different cities over there and expanding and growing. You can expand in both of those countries and more widely internationally. So it's certainly not a reflection on our belief in Britain as a place to do business.
So when the time eventually comes, whenever that may be, will you be listing in London over New York?
Just not thinking about that at the moment. And you know, it's not currently at the top of anyone's priority list because, as I said, they're not live discussions.
Thinking about UK politics, do any of the major political parties have policy on education that excites you?
I think the thing that excites me is that they all care about apprenticeships. In fact, this is one of the brilliant things right now for the opportunity that this concept has. Because you could ask the leader of any major political party, and in fact, you could ask nearly any member of parliament, and they will all say apprenticeships are a good thing, we want more of them. So what that means is if we can help show how to get the delivery model right, how to get them to reach more people, how to get them to reach the broadest parts of society and actually geographically spread across the country, then again, you can use them as this tool to drive social mobility and better results for business. And you've got to bring the two in tandem, because every company right now is grappling with how they get more productivity from their workforces, how they get the skills mix right, how they continue to keep and hire and onboard great talent. And apprenticeships can solve all of those things.
But further up that pipeline, you've had school pupils' education disrupted not just by the pandemic, but also by teacher strikes. Have you seen a deterioration in the calibre of candidate coming through your door?
It's a really interesting question. No, we haven't. And I think, again, it's because we're not assessing people based on the academic. And there's a limited utility to what that means in the workplace. So we're actually looking at a much broader, more holistic set of assessments. And you can scan and test for potential without having to rely on what grade someone got. In fact, they're barely at all instructive as to their actual caliber and ability to do things in work.
So where Rishi Sunak wants to prioritise getting everybody to do maths before the age of 18, is that a waste of time and money?
Embedding greater literacy and numeracy among the workforce in Britain is not a bad thing as an aspiration. You can have a debate about the best method of doing that, and the fact is there will be some people who will learn better outside of a classroom environment, and we've just got to make sure we're accommodating those people as well as those in a classroom. And the other thing is, maths is a subject that if it's taught wrongly in a scholastic setting, it can turn people against it for a very long time. And people often say things like, I'm not comfortable with numbers, or I don't like maths. That doesn't mean they can't thrive in a practical environment. So we've got to be a little bit more open-minded about how we teach people and how we embed skills.
It sometimes feels like a bit of a British thing that you can get away with boasting that you're not good at maths. I just want to come back to Multiverse, because we're in a higher interest rate environment. Patience is wearing thin among investors. They want tech companies to turn a profit. Multiverse has had losses for the past 6 years. When do you expect to turn that page?
So we're still very much in the growth stage of the company cycle, and we're growing rapidly. That is a good thing. Of course, unit economics are important. Having a sound underlying business is important. We have those things. We are not yet profitable, and we've got targets internally that we don't share externally around when we will realize that. It is important. The fact is, no business should expect to be unprofitable forever, but it's very acceptable if you have a lot of cash in the bank to invest for growth, and that's what we've been doing.
And Euan, you've got a big birthday coming up, I think, in January. Is 40 the year that you could turn your hand to politics?
I'm not looking at that at all. I'm in no way interested in entering politics. I love what I'm doing. And thanks for the reminder that I'm turning 40 next year.